Welcome to Books to Better Your Life. I'm so glad you're here. In this podcast, you'll find practical tips, quick recaps, and doable challenges inspired by some of the most impactful personal development books. You'll also get a behind-the-scenes look through author interviews, discovering the journeys and insights that shaped their work. I'm Anne Brinkman, a habit and mindset coach who loves helping people find the tools that fit them and to get them started on the life they want. Ready to dive in? Today's guest is Marie O'Neill. Marie is a passionate advocate for personal transformation, a dynamic coach, and a published author, as well as an MBA holder. As a new VP of Strategic Initiatives at Kepler College, she has extensive experience in guiding individuals to unlock their potential. Marie is the founder of Padma Life Coaching, where she leverages over 20 years of expertise in life renewal, astrology, and speaker coaching to empower others. She's also a distinguished Toastmaster and a proud member of Wine Country Speakers in Sonoma County. Her groundbreaking memoir, And the Lotus Opened, offers a powerful roadmap for healing from trauma and discovering one's authentic voice, a journey she passionately shares with audiences nationwide. Hi, Marie. It's so wonderful to have you here today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Anne, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yes. I know that after reading your book, I really felt like I've been on this journey with you and really getting a glimpse into your life. So I wanted to thank you for sharing that with us. First off, your book title references this idea of the lotus opening. Can you share that significance here?
Sure, I can. Thank you for asking that. The lotus plant is my plant totem. It was something that I didn't realize for years. And just to back up a little bit, I studied with a Native American for 4 years. And so she taught me about the Great Mother, about plants, about how to talk to plants, and realizing that each of us has a plant totem, which represents aspects of ourselves, our personality. So for me, looking at the lotus grows in mud and muck. It can't grow in clean water. It can't grow in beauty. It ends up being beautiful when it opens, but it has to start in the mud and muck. And then it comes up, seeks the light, and all the petals begin to open. And then when it's done, it dies back and goes back into dormancy. Each one of those petals represents an aspect of the life. And so as the petals open, there's an aspect of your life that is opening and has been transformed. The muck and mud represents the life before you've gone through any type of healing. So in order to get that beautiful plant, it has to go through trauma. It has to go through crap. It has to go through all of that. Just like a butterfly, when you think about a caterpillar going into its larva stage and the butterfly has to be created and open up and it's beautiful, all of us have to go through something to help us be who we are. So the lotus plant represents me and other people too, for that matter, but it is my totem.
That's such a beautiful metaphor for your life, that idea of a plant totem. How does one find their plant totem?
Well, number one, you look for plants that you've always been drawn to. Maybe you're drawn to the rose or a violet or a tulip, but you look at the plant and the attributes of that plant, what it represents, how it grows, and you compare that plant to your life and how your life has gone. That plant is also teaching you too, because the lotus plant teaches me to let go. It teaches me to know that I'm going through a consistent evolution. It's a perennial. It comes back, it goes dormant. So it's that cycle of life. So you would basically look at I mean, is there a plant that you always love? Well, obviously, then you're drawn to it for a reason. So you look up the meaning of that plant and all of its attributes and see what it's teaching you about you.
I love that option to kind of start exploring it on your own
Hmm.
without necessarily finding a guide to walk you through it.
Right. Because remember, some plants don't have flowers, and that's okay too. But then you have to look at, okay, what is this plant? Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? Are people going to admire me? Are people going to shun me? It's all of that.
I'm so curious now because I'm thinking in my head, I love dahlias, so I need to go research this after our discussion. Yes.
Yes, yes. I would look them up, of course, but if I remember correctly, I think they're popular in Asia. So you might want to look at also the spiritual, because I'm always looking at the spiritual component of everything and what they represent spiritually.
That reminds me too, you tell this story in the book about trusting in the Great Mother. Tell me about this idea of the Great Mother.
Mm. Well, I didn't know that the Great Mother existed until my Native American teacher. I thought she was out of her mind when she was talking about it. And I found out firsthand that she was actually correct. In the universe, we're usually taught that there is one, that there is God, that there is the divine. And this is true. But that divine is not masculine nor feminine. It just is. However, it branches off into the two, which is masculine and feminine. And it's an energy. It's not about whether you're born a female or born a male. It's about an energy. So the masculine energy is the energy that sets boundaries, knows when to say no, is action oriented. And this is for all of us, whether we're male or female. The feminine energy is the energy that actually gives birth to everything. When you think about a female giving birth, going through the gestation period and all that and giving birth. So whenever you have an idea, a spark of an idea, that comes from the masculine. It is the female who cultivates that, nurtures it, and gives birth to it. Whatever it is, whether it's a business, a baby, or a plant, or whatever it is. And in its manifestation, it is feminine because it is the feminine that actually gives birth to everything. That energy is also healing. When you want to heal, remember, I mean, for some, when they were kids, if they hurt themselves, they went to their moms or they went to whoever nurtured them, really. Well, that is the feminine energy. And she is everywhere. I realized that even Mother Mary, or I call her Goddess Mary, who was Jesus's mother, she represents that archetype of the Great Mother. In Hindu tradition, we have Kali, we have Ambika, we have Mafosap, we have all of these different energies in the Eastern tradition that represent the Great Mother. Here in America, we have Mother Mary, but we also have the Native American traditions who have the changing woman, the goddess, well, and the goddess of the West is in Eastern tradition, but we only have a couple of images of the Great Mother here on this continent. There is also the Black Madonna, who is the Great Mother. But we don't necessarily see her here in America. We see her in Europe. But she's everywhere. And it's an energy that has been dormant in most of our lives. And in order for us to balance and heal, we have to reawaken that particular energy within ourselves so that we can heal because we're out of balance. If it's all masculine, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. If it's all feminine, that doesn't work. We have to have both in order to create. And in order to be whole, we have to have both.
And that idea of it being dormant most of our lives, why is that?
Well, it's been dormant for about 5,000 years. If you look back in history, we used to have goddess worship 5,000 years ago. And then there were tribes that came down that were more masculine, and they wiped out the goddess tribes, which were more cooperative, didn't know war. And so you had the tribes coming down and wiping them out and forcing them to marry. And it slowly started to just go dormant and die out. And it's being reawakened now, or at least it has, from what I understand, at least the past 30, 40, 50 years. It's been reawakened. And everything has a cycle. Our lives have a cycle, and the energy has a cycle. When you think about the moon, it represents the goddess also. And the moon has 8 phases. So there are 8 cycles there. And that 5,000 years when she was dormant, that was what we call a balsamic phase, where she is dormant and gathering strength and then rising again. And so this is another reason that we have so much going on in the world right now. There's this war that each of us is going through, and in our different countries, because there's this issue of masculine not wanting to share power because they've been in power for 5,000 years. And now the goddess is rising. And so you've got women, when you think about male and female, doing everything that we can to actually get our power back. There's a backlash to that. It won't work, but they're trying.
Oh, I haven't heard of the current tumultuous nature of the world described in that way before. So that's really interesting to hear.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you also around throughout your book, I hear about so many influences from so many different belief systems, and a couple you've mentioned here as well. But so Buddhism, astrology, feng shui, Native American ways, Hinduism. And I'm curious, how would you describe that blend of belief systems that you've come to practice and relate to?
For me, it is more true. It is, I want to use the word holistic, and yet that's such a new age world because I wanted to get to the root of how the universe actually works and my place in it and how I interact with the rest of nature, because we're the fourth kingdom in nature. We're not separate from nature. But I wanted to see the rhythm of the universe and how it worked and how I respond to it and how it responds to me. And so these different traditions, each tradition gives me or has given me a piece of the puzzle to put together, because each of the traditions pretty much teach the same things. They just teach it in different languages. And so I needed to learn certain aspects from one tradition and certain aspects from another tradition so that I could put them all together.
Yeah. So I hear like that really combining all those different aspects of them, but in kind of in more of a way that really was where you were most drawn to and was most relevant for you in your
Hmm.
explorations in life.
Hmm. It really was, because where I was and the traditions that I was raised with didn't work for me.
Mhm.
And part of that was I didn't have access to the mystical traditions in the spiritual, in the Christian world. I only had access to a tip of it. The hellfire and damnation, the do as I say, the masculine is powerful, the Jesus died on the cross for us, and therefore you must give penance. And that's all I had access to. And yet, behind that is the deep mystical truths in the Christian faith that most people just don't know about. And so I went elsewhere to get that.
And I hear in your explanation kind of like it's not necessarily one or the other. That belief system around Christianity is not necessarily exclusive from these other belief systems.
Right. They all have the truth. That's what's so fascinating about it. It's just taught in a different way. And I hate this disparaging one over the other in saying that this is wrong or that's right. It's not wrong. It's just taught in a different way.
Yeah. And you mentioned a moment ago around that idea when that Native American teacher you had presented that idea of the Great Mother and you thought she was out of her mind. How do we in the modern world open ourselves to these other belief systems? I think it can be a stretch for people who are used to looking at the world within one way to become aware of these other ways of looking at the world and our place in it. What are your thoughts around that?
I agree. It can be definitely a stretch. And I say start with the other kingdoms of nature because they also are the Great Mother and represent that energy, as do we as humans. We are her too. And so if you look at nature and the growing cycle and how, they operate, that's a good place to start because you don't have to go to a church. You don't have to go to an ashram. You can just go out in nature and feel it. I live up here in, northern Cal, where I have access to the redwoods. I can go to Armstrong Woods and hang out there for an hour or two and feel nature and feel that love. What they give is unconditional love. They don't care what you've done or what you will do or think you're going to do. They just keep giving. And that to me is a good place to start to open up because it's about being able to open the heart and the being, your beingness to everything that is around you. And so to me, that's a good place to start. I started by hitting rock bottom and had feeling that I had no place to go because I'd already hit rock bottom. I think I'm going to try some other things. And my first lesson really was in nature, talking to the trees. And going on water journeys because she took me on water journeys, which was in the Four Corners. The Native Americans, when they wanted to purify themselves after a period of time, they would go on a trek to the different springs in the Four Corners, and they would do ritual in those springs to heal themselves. And so I went on some of those treks. Even when you're sitting by the water or doing the dishes, really feel the water. That water is alive. You think it's not, but it is. The wind. When you're outside and you feel the wind, really stop and feel the wind. The elements. I remember doing fire ceremony for the first time, and I'm really kind of stubborn. Once again, I was told that I could put my hand in the fire and I wouldn't get burned. I'm like, yeah, right. Sure. However, I did put my hand in the fire and didn't get burned because the fire was created in ceremony and it was honoring it because it's a being on its own. So all the elements are beings. So it's a slow process, and you start slow and you just start with nature, maybe walking outside with your feet on the ground. I mean, we walk on Mother Gaia, which is the earth, and that's alive. We walk on a planet that is alive and has awareness. We live on the earth. The earth does not live on us.
That's true. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I want to back up and go back to what brought you to write this book?
That's a good question. When I lived in Squam years ago, I had this idea of writing a book, and I was going to write it as it wasn't going to be real. It was going to be my story, but told through with somebody else's name, somebody else's eyes, and all this stuff. Cause it's like, I am not putting my stuff out there. And anyway, it didn't happen, and I let it go. I was going through in astrology, I was getting ready to go to begin what's called the balsamic phase. And that's where the moon, at the time of your birth, each of us has a moon sign. We all have a sun sign, but we have a moon sign too, which represents our emotional body. The sun, you could say, represents the father, and the moon represents the mother. You could look at it that way. Anyway, I had had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I made a decision during that conversation that I was going to write about my life for the purpose of reviewing my life to see what parts still needed to be worked on. That was the initial intent. And I also thought, well, I may publish it at some point or I may not. But the whole purpose is to write it, to just go through every part of my life. And then I wasn't sure what I would remember because I don't keep diaries. So I had to actually go on my memory. So I sat and I just started at the beginning, and each story just kept coming, just kept coming. And when I was triggered emotionally by a story, I knew that there was that part needed more work. And I would stop writing and deal with it, go through my own process of releasing that trauma. So there were some days I wrote a lot. There were other days I got a paragraph done. Some days I got a sentence done, but I just kept at it. And I finished it on Thanksgiving Day. I think I finished it in 2018, and I put it away and didn't look at it anymore until COVID. And I thought, oh, let me bring it out and see if it's still going to trigger anything. And so I brought it out. I read the whole thing. It didn't trigger. I wasn't triggered by anything in there. I was wondering, who is this person? It was me, of course, but it's like, really? And I also, at that point, I knew that I was supposed to publish it. And I debated with myself, actually with the divine. It's like, really? I don't know that I want my stuff out there like this. This is raw. And what I got back was, if it helps one person, it's worth it. And it's not yours anymore. It is a story. You've lived it, yes, but it doesn't belong to you. So I published it and went, oh my God.
I wanted to ask you, because you do share so many of those really personal experiences in the book, like how did it feel to unveil those experiences for the world to read?
Well, I let go of the book. That's how I was able to do it. Once, when I found the publisher, and I did hybrid publishing, when I found her, and we did an initial interview, she was asking me about how attached I was to the book. And I was saying, I'm not attached at all anymore. And that was the beauty of having written it in 2018, because by the time I started working with the publisher, it was 2020. And so the editor could do whatever they wanted with it. I didn't care. I put it out there to the divine. Hey, you want this published? I'm going to publish it. I'm going to put it out there, and so be it. And just let it go. So that's what I had to do. And I also knew that even though I had gone through a lot and I put a lot in the book, somebody else reading it would resonate with them. And they would hopefully see that no matter what they go through or have gone through, they can you can work through it. You don't have to have that trauma dictate your life or your entire life.
It sounds like it started with that intention as a healing journey to write it, and then eventually it morphed into actually helping someone else heal.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Because no matter what we go through, we think that our life is so unique and that nobody else is going through the same trauma, and that is just not true. People go through there's some serious trauma out here that people go through, and they need to have hope. They need to have hope to know, yeah, you're suffering. Yeah, you're crying. Yeah, it's miserable right now. And you can get through it. You're not going to be able to heal it, whatever it is you're going through, until you get through it. You have to stay in that fire until it's done. But once it's done, then you can go on the journey to heal it, which is one of the reasons the Native Americans went on their purification, their water journeys. It was to purify the trauma and everything that they'd gone through, because we all go through it. We're not getting out of here unscathed.
What gave you that strength to endure that trauma while you were in it?
Nobody's asked me that question. There was a couple of things. One, I had, as a kid, a really strong belief system. And it was something that was innate. I knew I could feel other people around me when I was a kid that were on the other side. And I always innately knew that I was better than the trauma that I was going through. And I had this saying, rightly or wrongly, it's only going to hurt as long as it's happening. This will stop. So I was always, I just had this feeling to just put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And I still do that today, no matter what happens. I learned, I already had it innately to pivot. And if I wanted something, I may have to go in a back door to get it or knock down a wall, especially if the front door is closed or whatever. But that's something that was innate within me. But I could always feel the support from the guides on the other side. And I always talked to them, not out loud, but
Mhm.
because people might think you're kind of crazy if you do that out loud. Except for today with the phones. But back then, I prayed a lot. I prayed to Jesus. I prayed to God. I didn't know about the Great Mother. And so I trusted. That was just within me. I mean, having something bigger than me as a kid to lean on um, was a big deal.
And I wonder now, how have all those challenging experiences, to put it lightly, How have those shaped you into the person that you are now?
There's a perseverance that I have. There is a trust that I have in myself. I endure. I've learned discernment. I mean, I've learned a lot from the trauma, and not that I wish it on anybody or even wish it on myself. At the same time, one of the biggest things that I learned is to take my power back from others and to keep it and to not give it away. Because so many of us give our power away, whether it's to our parents or our mate or our job or whatever. And we feel that we are weak and we're not. We just need to take our power back. And no matter who I am in front of talking to, no matter how much money they have or power that they think they have, I have my own power. And that trauma helped me to get that back. It helped me to find who I am because it was so intense. I had choice. I didn't have to go down the road that I went to find myself, but I wanted to know, who the heck am I? You know, why am I here? What am I here for? I just felt completely lost and had to find me again and rekindle that part of me that was there when I was 2 and 3 years old, that strength. So, yeah, the trauma, yeah, it was horrendous, and I'm free. And that is not something a lot of people can say. I am free. And the trauma didn't do that. I chose to go down the road to find me so that I could be free. And therefore, I'm not affected by that trauma anymore.
Well, I really hear that tapping into that personal power for you was really a driving force for you in really recognizing who you are. And it's powerful to hear you say that you can be in front of anyone and you still have that core of you there. That is really what's most important. No one can take that away from you. That's what I hear as you say that.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you have money or not. It doesn't matter if you're in jail. It doesn't matter what you're going through. You can still have your power. It is up to you to give it away or to keep it. I mean, even people who are in concentration camps, I'm sure a lot of them were able to keep their power. Because what happens is when somebody wants your power, they try to strip you of your dignity and try to strip you in any way that they can. And it is up to you. You have to do it from the inside out. It can't be outside in. It has to be from the inside. It's not even about believing in something bigger than you because it's not a belief, it's a knowing. And that's what I cultivated and continue to cultivate. And so you can stand tall no matter what you're going through.
Yeah. As you were sharing that, I was reminded of that book of Viktor Frankl about man's search for meaning and his story about the concentration camps. I don't think he described it as personal power, but that's what I hear, that
Yeah.
same element there.
Oh, it is. Because here's the thing, none of us know what's going to happen to us tomorrow or next month or this afternoon. We just don't know. And you still have to know who you are and where you come from and who has your back And I'm not talking about, I mean, yes, we have people in this realm, other family and friends and stuff who have our back. But as an example, if you have a job, people are afraid of losing their job because of the money aspect. However, if you look at that just a little differently, the fear goes away. So where does the money come from? Does it come from the job? Where does the job come from? That job was given to you by the divine. Why wouldn't the divine give you another job? Or give you money in another way? Or a house, or whatever it is you need? None of it is coming from a person. The person is being utilized by the divine to get you what you need. And that is it. So when you put your trust and faith into, I say, the divine, the mother, if it's a particular deity or whatever, but it's still an energy that is all encompassing, that is what you trust. And then you allow that energy that is consciousness to help you and guide you, and it will.
That makes me wonder that trust in the divine or faith in the divine, for people who don't have that belief system, how does that work for them?
Well, the divine is there for them whether they believe in it or not. And when I first started out initially having to build my relationship with the mother, I did something that I was told later was a no-no, but I did it anyway. I said, okay, if you're here, you're going to need to let me know you're here. I'm going to ask you for some little things that I don't care about. Let's see what you do. You're really never supposed to do that, but I was innocent. Anyway, it can take a long time to trust that. And you just start wherever you are. And I will tell anybody, okay, so it's okay that you don't believe or that you don't trust. Doesn't matter. Say, start a conversation in your mind. Just start a conversation with the divine and see what happens. And because it's like having a conversation with you, I hear back from the divine, but not necessarily in words. It can be with an animal that is outside my window or seeing something on TV. I mean, you always get the answer back. And that's in what we call sign and symbol. So I would recommend that a person, if you have a question, ask the question to the divine and then see what you have to keep your eyes and ears open because you're going to get the answer. If you see an animal and you see an animal doing something that maybe it doesn't normally do, look it up. I have a book on my bookshelf called Animal Speaks by Ted Andrews, and that is my Bible for animal symbology. Look it up and see what that message is, because there's a message from the universe for you. So that's a good place to start.
And speaking of starting, for readers or listeners who are still figuring out their healing journeys or haven't started on them yet, where should they start?
Well, as I say, start with what's in front of you right now. What issue is up for you right now? That's where you start. And you ask for help in resolving that issue, whatever it is. It could be, usually it's a fear of some kind. And so if you truly want to work on that issue, you ask for help from the divine and you take action based on the information that you get. You don't really have to look for the answer. It just kind of shows up. For example, synchronicity. Think about that. If you are thinking about, say, going to another country or another city or whatever, sometimes you'll see an ad for that city or somebody will mention it. Well, that's the universe speaking to you, saying, yeah, this is a positive. This would be good for you. I ended up in Bhutan that way. Had no intention of going to Bhutan. I'm glad I went, but it was but you start with wherever you are, with whatever issue is up then, and you just work on that issue until it's resolved completely. And you don't make the decision when an issue is complete, when you're healed from it. The universe does. So you can ask, am I complete with this? When you feel that you're done. The other thing is with healing an issue or working through it, there's no one way to work through an issue. Sometimes you're taken on different paths to work through an issue, or different traditions or different classes to work through an issue. It's never really a straight path, and it's not, like I said, just one way. And at some point, you'll figure out, you'll be so attuned to yourself that you will know when something is off or when you're triggered. I always pay attention to what I'm saying and my intention behind what I'm saying, and I also pay attention to how I'm feeling when I'm having a conversation with someone. It's about being in the present moment and being aware. And so that's also a good place to start too. Are you being triggered by something? What triggers you? Why does it trigger you? It's a good question to analyze, even if you start writing, which is another way. I don't use diary, but some people do. And even writing down your feelings for a week and then going back and rereading it. And get yourself a coach too. I would think that would work. There's so many ways to start.
Thanks for those tips there. What would you really like readers to take away from your book?
Read it with the knowledge that the person is on the other side of that and has healed from it. Read it with looking for the roadmap, or looking at the roadmap, because I put that in there, what I did to work through the trauma, and seeing which pieces of it fit for you or fit for your life, and if there is anything you want to try or explore. There's books that a person can read. I don't necessarily talk about the books in my book, but being curious about your own life. I want people to know that they need to be curious about their own life and that they can thrive. And I don't see most people thriving. I see most people existing. And it doesn't matter how much money they have. I see them exist because they don't know who they are. And hopefully this is a roadmap from childhood on. And I also put in there the growing cycle of the lotus plant. And I've got it set up so that I show what I've gone through in different stages and what stage of the lotus plant that actually is. One of the things that I want people to know with reading this book is they're not alone. They're never alone. All they have to do is ask for help from the unseen world, the light, the divine, and let themselves be guided by that. We're so afraid of the unseen. And part of that is because we started living in houses, we got away from nature, from the natural world. And we put our faith in not in ourselves, but wanting other people to resolve our issues, whether it's the bishop, whether it's, whoever. And we have to take responsibility for ourselves. Nobody is going to heal you. Nobody. You have to heal yourself. I mean, you can go to a psychotherapist, you can go wherever, but you're the one who has to do the work. You don't get out of it.
Yeah.
It's probably more than people wanted to hear. And you can't put it on the back burner either for very long, because it shows up in your life in everything that you do. Every utterance comes from what you've experienced and whether you've healed it or not.
And I wonder, as you wrote the book, if this was an opportunity for you to rewrite your narrative, rewrite your story for yourself.
It was, because, like I said, when I went through it, it was to see what needed to be worked on. And there were a few things that I hadn't completed from that particular time frame. So when you heal something or an issue within yourself, it's a shift kind of in your DNA or in your cell structure. So the energy that you're putting out is different, which means that you're going to attract a different energy. Because whatever we get, a lot of times it's an energy, it's that shadow, a lot of times, of ourselves that we're putting out that we don't even know is there. For example, if you run into people who are angry all the time, well, where do you have pent up anger that you're not expressing? Nobody wants to go through pain or trauma or anything, but you have to look at what's being mirrored back, because it's really all about us getting our authentic power and living from that. What is it, that axiom on the door, in one of the doors in Egypt, to know thyself? Well, that's what we're working on. And so I'm constantly evolving. The work never stops. You heal a certain point and then something else pops up, or you can give more. You can be of service more, because that's what I am. I'm of service. I do my best to help others walk this journey too. They have to walk it. I can, give them ideas and, tell them how I did it, or it's sort of like having somebody walking on the road next to you and say, hey, watch out for that rock over there. Or, don't stumble there. But you still have to do it. You're still doing it alone. You're still going through the healing. And it's like one of my teachers said years ago, when you think about the stuff that we have to get rid of, it's like the person who's been out in the wilderness for 10 years and never had a bath, and it's all caked on, and they're taking a bath and it's hurting and you've still got to keep going and keep scrubbing to get through, to clean yourself. So sometimes the pain intensifies when you decide you want to heal something, because you got to go through it. You can't go above pain or below it or around the side. You got to go straight through it.
That analogy is fantastic about the cleaning off all that layers of dirt.
Mm-hmm. So we have to, in Buddhism, there is the diamond that has to be, they give it a spit shine. It's the heart. It's the diamond in the heart lotus.
I really appreciated getting this opportunity to talk with you today. Thanks so much for joining us. For our listeners out there who'd like to connect with you or maybe find out about speaking engagements or other offerings you have, where should they find you?
Well, they can find me primarily right now through the book website and the lotusopened.com. Well, I guess www.andthelotusopened. They can email me at marie@padmalifecoaching.com. or they can email me through the lotusopened.com. I'm on social media. I have a YouTube channel. I do Ask Coach Marie series every week, where I answer 2 questions from the viewers and talk about various life renewal topics. I teach at Kepler College. I teach life coaching skills to astrologers, and I teach storytelling because I love storytelling too.
Beautiful. So many ways for people to connect with you. That's perfect. And those will be in the show notes as well. Thank you again, Marie. I really appreciated hearing all about your journey and perspectives and beliefs. And thanks for sharing with us today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me, Anne. This has been great.
Thanks for listening to Books to Better Your Life. If you could use some support on your own personal growth journey, please reach out. I'm an ICF certified life coach, and I help my clients with habits, mindset, confidence, and making what they want happen. I'm Anne Brinkman, and you can find me at www.betteryour.life. That's .life, not .com. Choose the contact option to send me a message and schedule a chat.